Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? Let's unbox the Perfect Grade Unleashed new Gundam in today's video. So that's right, the PGU new Gundam is finally out, and it represents 45 years of Gunpla history here, the culmination of everything that Bandai has created over the years, all of the innovation that they've done with their model kit technology, all piled into one absolutely monster of a kit, not only in terms of its size, but also its price. So that is definitely one thing that we're going to be talking about over the course of covering this kit. In today's video, just going to cover the unboxing, all the contents inside. We'll go through everything that you get in the box, all the runners, and all that good stuff, and then I'll be working on building it. We'll come back for the review later on. But this kit is also significant for a couple of other reasons. This is the second ever Perfect Grade Unleashed kit, following the release of the Perfect Grade Unleashed RX-78-2 previously, which was amazing. I loved that kit. It was awesome. Everything they did with it was great. The only thing that I wish that it had would have been a base, a display base. That said, this one actually does have a display base, which is great, but it seems like it's kind of going to be more so for support than really like holding up the kit for doing aerial kind of action poses. But we'll get into that more later. The other thing is just that the new Gundam in general is one of the most iconic Gundam designs, you know, aside from the RX-78-2, very recognizable design and very beloved design by a lot of fans. So yeah, as the saying goes, this new Gundam is not just for show, and this kit is no joke. It is massive, as I said. If you've seen photos of how this looks already, or maybe if you've already got yours, you know just how big this kit is. It's a monster, with the new Gundam, even in canon, being significantly taller than the RX-78-2. The kit reflects that here as well in 1/60 scale, so it's going to be a beast. So as you've been taking a look around this absolutely gigantic box, it's really beautiful. I really like the design layout that they went for, the art for all around all the sides of the box. And then here on the back, we've got a bunch more information talking about the ultimate unit system, where it's explained here in all Japanese and English text, the pursuit of realism through various materials. Once again, we're going to have photo etch parts in there, mixed with all sorts of different colors of parts that are going to be used for the inner frame and the armor as well. We'll have metallic injection parts as well as plated parts, a mix of everything all kind of thrown into one. And then for weaponry, we've got it all included here as well, from the beam rifle, the beam saber, the shield, and then the fin funnels, of course, as well. So the fin funnels are going to be able to be stored up on the back, but you're not going to be able to display them flying without buying more action bases that are going to be sold separately, unfortunately. And speaking of sold separately, you'll also notice here on the back of the box a note about the LED set, which is also sold separately. That's going to light up the head and the torso unit. I did not get the LED set, and probably won't, to be honest. It's very expensive for what you get from it. I haven't seen much on it yet from different reviewers, but I have to be honest, it does seem pretty overpriced for what you get with it, but I'll hold judgment until I see some more about it, I guess. But alright, I think it's time we go ahead and crack open the box and check out the contents inside here. And this is super cool. When you open the box, you're immediately greeted by this Anaheim Electronics confidential folder here. That's just basically going to be our instructions and everything. We'll get to that in a moment, but then behind that, we've got our 3 separate internal boxes. You also may have noticed that there's no handle on the top of this box, which has been a complaint among people. But let's go ahead and check out the instructions here. I really like the art and just the design that they've gone with for this, that blueprint design there on the front, just really cool. And this is just one big book, and it's not separated like other PGs have separated like the instruction and the construction manual into separate things, but this is all just one very thick manual here, clocking in at over 100 pages. The last few pages aren't numbered, but it's well over 100. Going back up to the front inside page here though, just really nice presentation for this. We've got Japanese at the top, a screenshot there from the anime there with the new Gundam in the hangar being constructed. Then we got our text here in English as well. What if the Gundam really existed? A real Gundam construction experience achieved through the ultimate unit structure. So that's going to be our system that's basically similar to what we saw with the PGU RX-78-2 Gundam, but we're going to be going through the construction in stages, building up all the many layers of internal frame first, and then adding the armor onto the top of that. So basically you can make it look something like that if you wanted to, which would be pretty cool. On the next page here, a bunch more information talking some more about the kit there in Japanese and in English. Again, like the breakdown of the cockpit there in the torso. There's a couple of stills from the anime just kind of mixed in at different parts here. There's a bit about the arms and the fin funnels, the shield there. That looks really cool. The beam rifle, beam sabers. And I appreciate that we also have the new hyper bazooka in there as well. That's definitely something that could have been an accessory that they left out, but I'm glad that they included that as well. Next couple of pages gets into the materials, the pursuit of realism through various materials. Again, it's not entirely new, as this is basically like what we saw with the RX-78-2 Perfect Grade Unleashed, but still it is definitely worth bragging about. I mean, Bandai does do this really well. Here's a bit about the luminous appearance that you can get from the LED set, again sold separately, and some of the other materials that are going to be used, like photo etch parts, wire cables, soft wire cables, the 3D stickers that you can put on there to look sort of like lights, basically. Again, stuff that we saw with the RX-78-2, but you can just kind of see how detailed and colorful the inner frame is going to look with all the different shades of gold, silver, gray, and everything else there in between. That's the end of the pretty pictures for now, as the next page just basically gets into the parts list, of which you can guess is going to be pretty extensive. And once we're through all of that, it has a breakdown here of the multiple phases. So phase 2, phase 3, phase 5, showing the different stages going from building the inner frame first, then the armor, and then all the accessories on there as well. Now again, like we've seen before, it looks like the runners are going to be marked with a symbol letting us know where those parts go to. So these runners will have this symbol on there for the head, for example. These runners will have this symbol there for the backpack, and this is just kind of letting you know which runners are going to be used for this section of the frame of the backpack anyway, because then when we go over here to the next page, you can see that for phase 3, which is like the armor phase, these are going to be the parts that are going to be used, or the runners that are going to be used for the backpack anyway. So just kind of a breakdown of which runners are used for which part of the build. Obviously a ton of runners that are going to be used there for the fin funnels. Can't say that I'm necessarily looking forward to that, but phase 1, as you may have noticed, we kind of skipped a couple of phases in between there. Phase 1 is actually just building the base. Now, one of my criticisms of this is definitely going to be the fact that they reused the Perfect Grade Unicorn's base. Now, canonically, I can sort of see like how the unicorn is related to the new Gundam, like in canon, it kind of makes sense, but it does feel a little lazy that this is supposed to be their pinnacle of Gunpla achievement and they didn't just design a new base for it. That seems like it wouldn't have been the most difficult thing in the world, to be honest. So I gotta say that does disappoint me a little bit. Phase 2 here then is getting onto the construction of the frames. So it's gonna have the legs frame here. And again, it's letting us know what all runners are gonna be used. Also metal parts. Yeah, I forgot to mention there is also gonna be some metal parts included for some verniers, stickers, and plastic stickers, the metallic 3D stickers they're calling them there, that are going to be used for putting the legs together here, the frames anyway. And it's even broken down by section. So leg unit 01 is just the top part, leg unit 02 is just this kind of middle of the leg part there. So each section is very compartmentalized here, I would say, which is kind of interesting, but it does help to break it up. For a very large kit with what is undoubtedly going to be a very long construction process, it's probably good to like break it up a little bit so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming. You'll also notice, of course, all these highlighted pink accents are just basically to let you know things to watch out for, to check, make sure everything's plugged in the proper way. So in typical Bandai fashion, they're making it pretty foolproof for you. By page 32 here, we're done with the legs and then on to the waist. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit through this until we get to the end of the construction of the inner frame anyway. Just stopping briefly to note that there is instructions in here for how to install the LED unit if you have that here in the chest, so it's not like a separate part that's at the end of the manual or something. It's just right there in the middle of the construction for this. But basically, if you didn't have the LED unit, you would just ignore that part. All right, so here on page 59, the inner frame is complete. And then on the next page, we start on phase 3, which is going to be adding the armor. So we're back to the legs, adding all the armor onto the legs here. And yeah, I mean, it looks pretty straightforward once you get to that point. Just kind of fast forwarding again here through the construction of the body, and just kind of fast forwarding some more through this. Then we get to the construction of the weapons, the hands here, the dreaded fin funnels, which do look to be pretty complex and which are just kind of always an Achilles heel for the new Gundam when it comes to different plastic model kits. I think the RG is probably the best version so far, and I think it seems to be that they have a sort of similar connection system for this kit as to what they had with the RG, but we'll see some more about that obviously once we've got the kit built up. But here you can see a little bit about that there on this page. It's just going to be a series of tabs that fold out and then connect together. So looks pretty solid. It's definitely going to be a weight issue though, and as you can see here, another thing that we've got to help with this is this part here, which is going to attach onto the base and basically hold up the fin funnels so that the kit isn't slunked off to one side there. But all right, for our last couple pages of the manual, we do have some more stuff in color about the action, kind of again showing how you can have the fin funnels deployed if you buy a bunch of extra action bases, a few other action shots here showing it in different poses. So I think it's probably going to be pretty posable, just not super posable once it's attached to the base. But honestly, personally, I'm probably most interested in displaying it in something like this, like a full hatch opening display, or at least like half open or something like that, because this is one thing that I really like about perfect grades. And you guys know perfect grade is not really my favorite grade. I just kind of find them a little bit too big, a little bit too heavy and complex sometimes, but I do really like the open hatch gimmicks, so this is something that I'm definitely looking forward to trying out. On the next page then, here we've got the decal guide and color guide, where the decals and colors are going to be placed on there. That's going to continue on to our last couple of pages here. Pretty extensive decal guide, but let's go ahead and dive into the rest. And so pulling out the first box, which I would imagine this is going to be all of the parts for building the inner frame. If it ends up being separated in that way, it does seem like it. It's the one box for all the parts for the inner frame, the second box for all the parts for the armor, the third box for all the parts for the weapons and accessories, mostly the fin funnels. And that does seem to be like probably how it's going to be broken down. But as you can see, the front of the box here features, again, some awesome line art there of the Gundam and some of the accessories and parts and stuff. So again, this blueprint style design on this just looks so cool. And this is all English on this one. Actually, there's not Japanese and English, it's just English. So again, I think that's just kind of playing to that this is supposed to be developed by Anaheim Electronics, and imagining some futuristic weapons manufacturer, probably just going to use English, which is probably just going to be like a universal language at that point, right? Let's go ahead and pop the top and check out the contents here of box one. Whoa! First of all, we're greeted with a lot of shiny colors there. Our plated parts, some colored parts over here. We'll go through the runners momentarily, but here obviously is going to be our base plate there. For confirmation, still carrying the labeling for the PG-160 scale RX-0 Unicorn from 2014. And we've got our other parts here for that. This is basically just the lid part for it and the connection arm there, shaped like the Unicorn's signature Unicorn V-fin, which obviously this Gundam does not have. And so, all right, it does not seem like there's any particular method to the separation of the runners from one box to another, at least for this first box, as just a mix of random things. So here, for example, are beam saber effect parts. This is the beam saber effect parts in 160 scale that are just the standard perfect grade ones from back in 2000. So these are the old ones, just regular blades. Then we have these new ones, which are specific for the new Gundam. So a much longer blade here. You also have the shorter blade, which goes out the back end of the beam saber. So those are new. And the plastic is quite interesting. It's clear pink, but it's not as translucent as we've seen before. You might think, oh, it's maybe more UV reactive, but testing this out with a black light, and it does not seem so. So unfortunately, very not UV reactive, which is kind of a shame. A runner here is in 4 different colors. Clear orange down here at the bottom for inside the thruster bells. You've got this nice yellowish orange color here, including the V-fin, some off-white parts over here on the side, and then a bunch of clear green parts up there across the top. The B runner here is going to be for our pre-molded kind of multi-injection hand parts here. So similar to like what we've got for the Master Grade new Gundam Verk, I believe also has like the 1/100 scale version of this. So these you'll just clip off, and then the fingers are already built and fully articulated for you if you want the fully articulated hands. But we do have fixed pose options for this, like what we saw with the RX-78-2 Unleashed. Next couple runners are going to be our plated runners, and as you can see, this is runner C1, C2, C3, C4 is here, C5 is this little bit down here, C6 is this section, C7 and C8. So this is like a runner that's made to be basically separated off into sections. So again, you can break the runner apart and separate this all for different sections of the build. As you can see, that metallic coating on here is in this really nice kind of orange gold there. Even this part's going to go on the back of the V-fin, so that looks really cool. And then in the D runner is going to be a much less orangey kind of gold color, just a more pure gold kind of. This one, a more yellow gold, I guess, does look really nice for some more accent parts around some some vents there mostly, and then runner E as well. Gonna have some more of those, and this is just all going to be in this really nice plated gold. The F runner, which again is separated into like F1, F2, F3, F4, blah, 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 all the way to runner F8, is here for our red parts. Then runner, like another copy of that anyway, is basically a copy of this section with the addition of F9 over here on the side. Next up then, now we're getting into some of the white parts. So this does still look like a lot of like interior, like detail, mechanical structure parts, but so not exactly like inner frame, not exactly armor though either, but you can see this is an ABS plastic. And as I mentioned before, looking at the manual, each runner has a little symbol there, so it shows you that these are parts for the head. And as you can see, some really nice detail. Almost looks like a Star Wars kit there with that internal detail for these parts for the head there. But then like for runner G2, which is the middle section there, you can see it's for the torso. And runner G3, which is for the waist section. There you can see the little symbols next to that. Anyway, moving on to runners H1 and H2. Here, some more ABS in white, and we got 2 of those runners. Runner I then getting into some of the armor, no more ABS, but still in this white plastic. We've got 2 of runners I1 and I2 there connected. Same thing here for runner J, some white parts, and I think we are gonna have multiple tones of white, but we're not getting into that yet. And you can also see some really nice detail for these parts. What looks like the top of the shoulder there, these little fins on it. I think that's going to look really cool. The K runner here is also broken up into a bunch of different sections, but you'll notice we also have our pilot figures on here. So we've got a seated pilot figure of Amuro there in his normal suit there for inside the cockpit, and then standing Amuro in just kind of a regular uniform. And then our bonus character figure here of Chan is also going to be there in 1/60 scale, saluting, both of those being on that little stand there just to kind of help those stand up, but those look really nice. The M runner here looks to be like mostly white parts for the weaponry. The N runner, obviously just one big single part there for the shield. And just to give you guys an idea of the size of this part, this one part is about 27 centimeters in length. Runner O1 here in dark gray, as you can see, is going to be parts for the fixed pose hands. So these are going to have like other parts on the inside there, again, like we saw with the PG Unleashed RX-78-2 Gundam. P runner then continuing on with some more white parts there. Same thing here for runner Q. And again, I'm just going to refer to this as just runner Q generally. It's actually Q1 and Q2, the way that they're broken up, but you guys are kind of understanding the way that these runners are going. But this is runner, the R runner anyway, as we'll call it. And there are 2 of these. It's actually R1 and R2 there. And then finally breaking up all that white here with some black parts on the S runner here. And our other S runner, which is going to be a more full one with, sections of it copied and then some individual sections over here. The T runner here as well is going to be some more black parts there. The U runner is going to be here in a dark navy color. That looks really nice. And then also this U runner, which has a section of that copied and then some other additional parts on there for the weaponry, it looks like mostly. Last couple things for this box are going to be this W runner here in red ABS plastic for the cockpit, and this W runner here for a few gray ABS plastic parts there as well. Moving on to box 2 then, here the blueprint design on the front of this featuring the fin funnels. So I'm guessing this is just going to be only just the parts for the fin funnels, possibly, but again, we'll find out in just a second once we open this up. It could just be just different art that they put on the different boxes, and this does look, again, really nice. Some cool bits of information and just a bunch of really awesome line art. And I should mention too that the boxes aren't labeled like box 1, box 2, box 3. That's just sort of the order that I'm pulling them out from the top to bottom. This box definitely the thinnest of the 3 though, and at a glance, it looks like this is probably just all the parts for the fin funnels. And so, okay, these runners are all going to follow a lettering of FA, FB, FC, etc. FA here is just going to be some white parts there. FB we also have 2 of for a bunch of parts there in black for like the interior of the funnels. FC here we also have 2 of in a very dark gray, very detailed there, and these are going to be in ABS plastic, by the way. FD as well we have 2 of, and again it's more dark gray ABS plastic there for some of the internal bits. Same story here for runner FC as well. You can just see all the parts that are going to be involved for making 6 complete funnels there. Runner FF is going to be some more parts here in white. Once again, we've got 2 of those. FG is some parts here in navy, 2 of those. FH here in a not plated but a molded silver color there. FI is going to be all of our yellow parts here, sort of that same orangish yellow color. And lastly, the only runner that is not doubled here, runner FJ, is going to be clear parts for holding those parts there. And then this is that big part that's going to attach onto the display base for holding up the funnels there, as you can see in this clear. And this is also clear ABS plastic for these parts. All right, then for the third and final box, this time the artwork featuring the inner frame here mostly. There's a little bit more about the beam rifle, the bazooka, and the cockpit there to one side, and then our largest illustrations there are more line art of the inner frame. Incredibly detailed, really awesome line art there. If you're the kind of person that's into these, mechanical illustrations, then you got to be loving this. I think it looks super impressive. I really like the look that they've gone with for these blueprint themed designs for the box art. Super cool. Right, so with the first and the third boxes being much thicker, this one's probably going to have a bunch more inner frame in there. Then we're also yet to see some of the extra stuff here, like these wires. So here we've got this set of long wires here in red and blue, the blue one being a little bit longer. These undoubtedly you're going to have to cut to length to include them, and these are definitely soft. They're not like really malleable, so it's not like you can like form a shape with it. These are just going to go in different areas of the inner frame to add some detail. Very cool. And then here's also the bags for the metal parts, so the actual metal vernier parts there. There's a bunch of those. We've got two larger ones that I think go in the feet there, and then two little teeny tiny ones. I think those are actually for the Vulcans in the head there in like a darker metal, whereas the ones for in like the feet and the other thruster barrel ones are in this kind of brown color. I really like the look of that actually. And bam, here's some good stuff in this bag. Here's our other extra stuff, and right off the bat, I just want to say, I formally apologize, Bandai. I was under the impression that this was not including waterslide decals, but here, lo and behold, it's a set of waterslide decals for this. That is really, really cool. I've got to say, definitely stepping up their game a little bit for this. A nice sheet of decals there in white, red, and gray. Those look fantastic, so very ecstatic to see that. And then we've also got our two small sheets of photo etch parts there for adding extra detail to the frame. We've got these parts here, which are really cool. I don't know how to describe the material. Sort of reminds me of like a dryer sheet, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But this is actually cut there, so it's kind of hard to see. You'll have to use tweezers to peel this off, but it seems like it's basically like a sticker material on the back. But this is for basically recreating the scene from the movie where the new Gundam is still in production, still in the factory, and has the eyes covered, and I'm not sure where these other sections go, but that is a really cool aspect to have included. It's something we knew was going to be included. I knew this was going to be in here, but I'm interested to see how this material works on the kit itself, but that does look really cool. And then our absolutely gigantic sheet of plastic stickers here. This is ridiculously huge. A little bit of blue up there at the top, mostly though red, green, and just like chrome here for those. There's just a ton of these that are going to be going around on different parts of the kit. That's going to be quite the chore. But as we're getting into the runners here, very interesting. So the runners don't seem to be separated, in boxes as like box 1 is all for the inner frame, box 2 is all for the armor, like that. But the numbering system for the runners is different for each box. So the first one was normal, the second one was a little bit different. In this box, all the runners start with X. So it's XA, XB, XC, etc. But the XA runner here, as you can see, is in a molded silver, not plated silver. It's molded silver, but it is very high gloss as well. So it does look really, really nice, I think. Same thing here for runner XB, a lot of silver. And you will notice though, all those squiggly lines in there is all from the metallic injection in the parts. So that's one reason why people don't like metal injected parts and prefer coated parts. But I will say on certain areas you can see it a lot, in other areas you can't really see it that much, so it's not too bad if that's something you care about anyway. Personally, it doesn't really bother me that much, but just a heads up on that. Runner XC we have two of for some more molded silver parts here, and then the same thing here for runner XD, which we have two of, some more molded silver. That said, this part here, which is runner XD2 and 3, it looks to be like molded silver, but then with a kind of metallic green coating over the top of that there for parts of the cockpit there. But the rest of basically everything else in this box is all just dark gray inner frame parts basically, and a lot of ABS too. So like here's runner XE. We've got two of these for more frame parts here in dark gray ABS. Same thing for runner XF, more dark gray ABS frame parts. Runner XG1 is just a single runner here, but it's more of the same. Same thing here for runner XH, but this one is in a little bit different shade of gray. It's not quite as dark here. XI1 though is back to the darker shade of gray for more inner frame. Same thing with runner XJ here. And I am going through these kind of quickly, but I do want to make sure to mention that these are incredibly detailed parts here for the inner frame. I mean, it's just packed with tons of detail on all of the parts. But up next are two XK runners here. XL certainly lives up to the name here with some pretty extra large parts there on those two XL runners. XM is going to be more of the same, very dark gray inner frame parts there, still all in ABS. Runner XN looks to be like mostly dark gray parts for in the weapons there. Runner XO here is going to be more of the same. Runner XP is a little different in that this is in a very dark brown, so we will have a little bit more of kind of tone variance between some of the parts of the inner frame there. And lastly, very last one here, very last runner for this kit is just XQ, and it's the interior part for the shield, which again is pretty large. So that is a lot of stuff. Stacking up all the boxes here just to quickly show it to you makes for quite a tall tower, and these are going to make for some really cool artwork to put on the walls. If you want to cut out the front of the boxes and put these up on the walls as posters, these are going to look really cool. All right, so there is a ton of stuff in here, and this is going to be quite the process. I hope that you'll join me for the entire building process for this and then subsequent review. We'll be spending a lot of time on this kit just because there's so much in there, but I'm looking forward to it. It looks awesome. So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about it? I'm sure a lot of your guys' concerns are basically just going to be around the price. With it being as expensive as it is, you're wondering, is it really worth it? That's really going to be subjective. I can't really quite answer that for you. The best that I can do is to just kind of show you what you're going to get, and then that's kind of up to you to decide for yourself. But it is a huge box and a ton of stuff in there. So I mean, you're definitely getting a lot of stuff for your money. So if you guys are interested in checking out the kit for yourself, of course, you can check the link to USA Gundam store in the video description down below. I believe at the moment of recording this, we are still taking pre-orders for later batches that are going to be coming out in the near future. You can of course check that out there on the website. And if you guys also enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. If you're not yet subscribed, you can subscribe just right down there below as well. I really appreciate all your guys' support. Let me know what questions you guys have about this kit, what you would like to see over the course of covering this kit, and I will try to answer that for you. But in the meantime, hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.